this whole thing that was formed. And I would say most of those groups are probably having voters remorse now because their promises were not delivered, and maybe the exact opposite happened. Epstein files being a great example. So I think that has created a great opportunity, not only for the message that I believe in, which is that politics ultimately won't save us, but for those who are looking for solutions to recognize, okay, well, if we don't think we're going to be saved by the Democrats, and now we thought Trump was going to come in and clean house and do all these things, and he's not doing that, rather than waiting another 2 years for the next election and J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio or whoever other puppet they put up there, or, AOC or whatever they're going to throw out
Gavin
there,
Newsom.
rather than, even if you believe that, like, let's say somebody hearing this is like, look, I'm with you, but I still trust the politician. That's great. You got 2 years and then you can go vote. What are you doing in the meantime? What are you doing to actually, and that's the thing I will say too, is that it doesn't have to be an all or nothing strategy. I personally don't vote. I don't see any value in that. I mean, if anything, if I was to vote, it would be on the local level, trying to fight these agendas, because we've talked about this in past interviews. Agenda 2030, the Great Reset, that stuff starts on the World Economic Forum, United Nations level, but it actually happens in your school board, in your town council, in your city council. That's how those agendas move forward. So if you were going to vote, maybe focus your energy there. But even if you're going to vote in the national elections, that doesn't mean you should put all your eggs in that basket. What I'm saying is, okay, great, vote when you think the time is appropriate, but also vote with your actions, vote with the things that you're doing. Because if you do put all your faith in, well, Trump's going to save us, or RFK or whoever else, and they break their promises, which would we be surprised? History has shown that's probably what's going to happen. Then you might want to have a backup plan. So at the least, consider some of these ideas that I propose. And I really try to talk about it in this holistic fashion of, take what I call a holistic self-assessment of your own life, of your own family situation. Where are the areas that you might have the most vulnerability? So some people are sitting with like, oh, we've got a whole warehouse of food storage. We've got water put away. We're ready for the apocalypse. Great. That's not you're good there. But what other areas? Are you still using all the big banks that Jeffrey Epstein laundered his money through? Right. Are you still using the big banks that robbed the American people in 2008?
Yeah.
Maybe switch to a local credit union. Maybe consider privacy cryptos like Monero or something like that. There's still areas that you could sort of look at. And I think that my goal is to try to highlight these different areas that we saw these people attack us during COVID, for example, the schools, the healthcare. If you are dependent on those systems, then those are vulnerabilities that they will exploit eventually, and they will use them against you. And so the more dependent you're on their systems, when they roll out the CBDCs or the stable coins or the digital IDs, if you're completely dependent on the systems, you're more than likely going to comply because you have no other option.
Right.
Even if you don't want to, even if you're the most ardent, I'm awake, I'm a truth or whatever, but I don't have a backup plan. And we saw that with COVID, where people were like, well, I don't want the shot, but I got to work. And because they were dependent on those things, they had to make choices they didn't want to. And so my message is really to say, while we have this window and this time, let's start trying to see which areas we can become more free. And it's not an overnight process, of course. Like for me, I haven't used a bank since 2008. I don't operate in certain systems. I don't talk to certain government agencies. I live my life a certain way. Yeah. That's not to say that's the way everybody needs to live. I'm not advocating for that, but that's just what works for me. And it comes with its own challenges and its own, navigating.
Right.
But I think that's key as well, is that in the world we're living in, whether it's another pandemic or whatever they may have planned, we should learn to be adaptable as well, because you might live one way or have certain systems, and then those systems no longer become available to you, or those systems now require facial recognition or things like that. So, the main key part of the message is opt out of these systems where you can while we have the opportunity, and focus on building alternative systems, whether that's in the food area, learning about permaculture, learning about local farmers, supporting your local farmers. Even if you're not going to go be the farmer yourself, support those who are doing the farming. Another area is in the area of technology. I'm not a technologist, but I know a lot of brilliant coders and software developers and, friends who have their companies selling de-Googled phones and laptops. So I want to support those people, right? Because they're trying to build those parallel systems in that way. So even if you're not the one building it, support those who are making those efforts to build these systems.
Some of the things that we do with our children is we make them create a balance sheet. Every 6 months, they have to check in, like, what do they owe? What do they own? And where are the vulnerabilities there? So it's like, that's okay, awesome. You have this savings account, you have this Nintendo, this kind of thing. Like, is there something there that you can take this and turn it into an asset that's protected in case Very of, cool. Right? So like when I was 10, my dad made me do this and was like, I have a 10-speed bike and all of that. Like, can you turn this into an asset that makes money for you? And then think about, like, what if, what if the government collapsed currency, which they are currently doing? What if? And so, like, it's just a regular exercise. I wouldn't say they love it, but you know, they have to sit down, like, in
They
Christmas
probably
break.
will be thankful for it later.
Well, it's what I had to do.
Yeah.
So my father forced me to do it. So I could always see, like, what do I owe? What do I own? And how can I optimize those things? And then since I've sort of been, I don't know, pilled. I don't know what color I'm on. I've been pilled. I wouldn't say red. I wouldn't say black. I'm more on the black pill because I'm mad all the time.
It's hard not to be.
Yeah. You know, I've started to think about not just the balance sheet, but like, where are the vulnerabilities?
Yeah.
You know, where can we turn that
important.
into an asset? Can we own something instead of cash
Exactly.
that makes money for us rather than what the government, you know?
Especially when the people that we are trying to expose say you will own nothing and be happy. That might be a good idea to own things.
To own more
actually-
things.
And you know,
Exactly.
a big part of that, well, just one note on that, that so many people kind of don't notice, like even people who are aware of like, oh, you know, own nothing and be happy.
Right.
Streaming of music, streaming of movies. If you're dependent on the Amazon, the Netflix, the
Yeah.
Spotify, they can take that music down anytime. You don't actually own it. You're just paying,
Right.
you know, so this idea of subscription model forever is the future that they want to create, like where you don't actually own your home. You just rent it and somebody else uses it when you're not there. Like this is the vision that the World Economic Forum has described. And you know what?